The worn tire. To start, I had an affair. Then I found out that when I had mine, she went and had one. Where I come clean about all and everything, she still has not. She does not want to discuss it with me. I don't understand why my wife is defensive or protective of her affair partner and his family. She seems to put them in what would happen to them over us and me. I also know she has talked with 2 of her female friends and one guy friend that is older and told them about her affair and mine. She won't even admit she told them when I said something after one of the women and the guy at different times slipped up about it and let info out. I just do not understand why she won't talk to me and tell me the truth when I tell her what I know about her affair and the little I know they know. Mine was emotional after my father passed, not a real excuse, but she had also lost her father just a few months before. Not physical at all. She has not had multiple affairs. She just has told other people, the female and male friends, about both of ours. It is her wanting to protect them that is what bothers me most. We meet on a site for grieving the loss of a parent. She was just there for emotional support, which she excelled at. Understood my father's and my relationship completely. We meet less than 10 times over 8 months. We only talked a few times a week when she or I were struggling with our losses. I cut it off when I started realizing we had started flirting instead of just being supportive. It happened right before I ended mine. She came to me 9 days after and told me who it was and that it had happened. But in that 9 days, and I guess leading up to it happening, is when she discussed it with her friends I mentioned. It was with a guy we knew 15 years ago. She said he reached out after her father passed. We never got physical, but I would say that before I ended it that it was heading that way. Hers started before mine ended and I told her. She did say she knew about mine before I told her. We meet 8 times and always in a public place. I think I was very naive to what was happening. She did not like the meeting in public after a while. That was when I finally started putting things together that it was going a different direction, at least for her. Why I didn't tell the OMW, truthfully, I don't know why I haven't, over than I am not sure I want to mess that family up to. In my head it was because I did not tell my wife. I was meeting and talking to another woman, and I said it had started getting flirty and had started to change. When the realization truly hit me, it was like a sucker punch. It's strange how a series of decisions, both mine and hers, led us to this precipice. Here I was, in a situation where I couldn't even trust the one person I'd pledged my life to. My heart was clouded with anger and resentment, but more than that, it was filled with pain and confusion. I sit at my worn-out kitchen table, nursing a cup of stale coffee. A stack of divorce papers sits in front of me, like a tombstone marking the death of my marriage. How did I get here? I keep asking myself that question, but the answer eludes me every time. I think about it, and I feel like a worn tire, beaten down, threadbare, and utterly exhausted. I had an affair. Let's not sugarcoat it. But you know what? She had one too. Only, while I came clean, spilled my guts about everything in hopes of some kind of redemption or, at the very least, honesty between us, she didn't. It's like she's guarding this secret, her affair, as if it's more precious than what we'd built together. To make it worse, she's talked to her friends about both of our affairs yet refuses to have an honest conversation with me. It's as if I'm not even worthy of knowing the whole truth, which is insulting, confusing, and heartbreaking all at once. Let me be clear. My affair wasn't even physical. It was emotional, something that sprouted from a time of vulnerability after my father passed away. A time when she, too, was grappling with the loss of her dad. We found each other on a website for people grieving the loss of a parent. A virtual shoulder to cry on that slowly but surely morphed into something more. I realized things had started to change, turning flirty and ambiguous, so I ended it before it could get physical. We'd met up less than 10 times, always in public places, but the emotional connection was starting to weigh heavily on my conscience. I knew I had to stop it before it crossed that line, so I did. She, on the other hand, went all the way, both physically and emotionally, with some guy we both knew 15 years ago. And she talked to her friends about it, friends who slipped up and spilled the beans in front of me. Now she's denying even that. It's almost like she's more concerned about protecting him and his family, over our family. Why haven't I told the other man's wife? Well, it's complicated. I think deep down, I don't want to be the one to break another family, but it also feels like a convenient excuse. So, what's left? A relationship that is a shadow of what it once was, and 2 people too afraid, or maybe too proud, to mend what's been broken. When I finally faced the gravity of our situation, it was like a sucker punch to the gut. My head was a swirling mess of anger, confusion, and a crushing sadness. Our marriage had become a series of betrayals, half-truths, and complete omissions. The one person I had pledged to spend my life with had become a stranger, and that hurt the most. So here I am, with these divorce papers, which feel heavier than any physical weight. I haven't signed them yet, because doing so feels like the final admission of our failure. Our therapist says it's never too late until the ink dries, but in my heart, it already feels like it's too late. The emotional ink has been drying for a while. We went to therapy, you know. Oh, yeah. Sat on that plush little couch in that soothing room with all the self-help books lining the shelves. We spilled our life stories, hoping the therapist could serve as a sort of emotional referee. But all I kept hearing was how we both needed to communicate and reconnect. Well, how can I do that when she won't even tell me the truth? Transparency, the therapist would say, is key to rebuilding trust. Well, that's easy to say when you're not the one desperately seeking transparency from a brick wall. I was transparent, laid all my cards on the table, even the ugly ones. I put my heart in a vulnerable spot, waiting for her to do the same. But she didn't. She chose to protect another man, her friends, even herself, but not us, not me. And while I sat there in therapy, battling a mixture of resentment and a yearning to get back what we lost, she seemed almost aloof. She'd make an effort in that room, but as soon as we stepped out, it was like nothing had changed. So, what's the point? I can't be the only one wanting to fix this. It takes two to make a marriage work, but it also takes two to break it. Our friends see it too. It's become so obvious that even our usual double dates have become awkward affairs, no pun intended. No one says it, but the tension is like this giant elephant in the room. Everyone's walking on eggshells, and honestly, I hate it. I hate how our personal failures have become a group burden. This affair of hers has left so many unanswered questions. What did he give her that I couldn't? Was he a temporary escape, or does she still have feelings for him? Would she have ever told me if I hadn't come clean about mine? These questions plague me day and night, gnawing at my peace of mind, eroding my self-worth. We still live together, sharing the same bed as two strangers at a hostel, emotionally miles apart but physically just inches away. I find myself looking at her when she's asleep, searching for the woman I fell in love with, the one who supported me through thick and thin, especially when we both lost our dads. That emotional depth we had, that understanding, seems like a lifetime away. And I hate to admit it, but there's a part of me that wants to cling to that past, to go back to the time when our love was still pure, untainted by betrayal. I fantasize about a moment where she comes to me, tells me the whole truth, apologizes sincerely, and we somehow pick up the pieces. But then reality crashes in, reminding me that love alone isn't enough to fix what's been broken. The clock on the wall seems to mock me. It's ticking, a constant reminder of the time we're wasting, the life that's passing us by. Every tick echoes in my mind, louder and louder, until I can't take it anymore. I finally muster the courage to broach the subject we've both been avoiding. We need to talk, I say, my voice laced with a mix of resignation and desperation. She looks at me, her eyes searching for something, perhaps a sign that things might be different this time. All right, she replies cautiously. And just like that, we're sitting on opposite ends of the couch, in the same room but in different worlds altogether. I start by laying it all out. I can't go on like this. I can't keep pretending that everything's fine when it's not. I need to know the truth, the whole truth. Only then can we figure out what's next for us. She hesitates, her gaze dropping to the floor. I'm not sure you want to hear it, she finally says, her voice barely above a whisper. But I do, I counter. I need to. We can't move forward if we're both stuck in the past, tangled up in lies and half-truths. We owe it to each other, after everything we've been through. It's a long pause, the silence heavy and oppressive, before she finally speaks. Fine, she says, you want the truth. I had an affair. It wasn't just a one-time thing, it was ongoing. I talked to my friends about it because I felt trapped, confused, and I needed someone to talk to. But I didn't tell you because I knew how much it would hurt you, and in a twisted way, I was trying to protect you from that. I feel my stomach churn as her words sink in, each sentence like another brick in the wall that's slowly closing in around me. Why him? I ask, a question that's been haunting me for so long. Why did you let it go on for as long as it did? Because for a brief moment, he made me feel like I was the center of someone's world, she replies, her voice tinged with a sadness I haven't heard before. After my dad passed away, after I realized you were drifting away into your own emotional affair, I felt alone. I convinced myself that a short-lived escape would make me feel better, but it didn't, and I've hated myself for it ever since. I absorb her words, allowing them to wash over me, each one a droplet in a storm of emotion. It hurts, it cuts deep, but it's also liberating in a way. The truth, as bitter as it is, offers a clarity that's been missing for so long. And for the first time, we're on the same page, reading the same tragic chapter in a book that we started writing together so many years ago. Do you still have feelings for him? I ask, the question hanging in the air like a thick fog. No, she says emphatically. That chapter in my life is closed. But what scares me is that I don't know if I still have feelings for you either. It's a sobering confession, one that slams into me with the force of a freight train. But in that moment, I realize something crucial. We're both lost, both adrift in a sea of uncertainty and regret. And as painful as it is to admit, maybe the most compassionate thing we can do for each other is to let go. I pick up a pen and the stack of divorce papers. Then I guess we know what we need to do, I say softly, signing my name with a heavy heart. She picks up the pen and does the same, each stroke sealing the fate we've both been avoiding but know is inevitable. And just like that, it's done. The worn tire has finally burst, unable to bear the weight any longer. But amidst the wreckage, there's a sense of relief, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, we can both find the roads we're meant to travel, even if they lead us in opposite directions. As she leaves the room, I feel a sense of emptiness wash over me, but also a glimmer of something else, hope. We're both free now, free to find new paths, make new mistakes, and learn from them in a way we couldn't learn from each other. It's the end of an era, but the beginning of something new. And for the first time in a long time, that thought doesn't scare me. My comment: when communication has broken down, trust has been shattered, and the love that once was vibrant has dimmed to near non-existence. The ending is both a finale and a new beginning, closing one chapter while tentatively leaving the door open for new opportunities. Story 2. Today, we had an argument about our small business and I became heated toward her. She had been planning on going to visit her family later this month, but then went out and immediately bought the tickets for her and the kids. She said nothing was wrong, but her attitude told me otherwise. After pressing the issue, I found that she is planning on leaving me and not coming back. She said I am too violent, she used to think I could change and doesn't now, and that she feels trapped when we fight because she doesn't have any friends or family here. My stance was that I'm a very emotional person, have been for the past 11 years we've been together, and had been since before she had ever even known me. When my feelings stir, how can I deny them? I told her that I don't want her to leave, but she is in charge of her own fate and who am I to stop her? Also, I told her that she had probably just been reading some things online or whatnot and it had given her some crazy ideals of Disney romance and love. So, her ticket is for tomorrow morning. What do you all think will come of this? Will she reach out to me on the train there? Will her feelings for me force her to call me after a few weeks? Or, possible, will this be the end? We have 2 kids together, so I doubt she'd just disappear. But, maybe, she really will not come back home. Today, I kicked a coffee table and it hit a cupboard, thereby breaking the glass. Previously, I'd be violent toward her when enraged, but I haven't struck her in over a year. Regardless, she still finds it pretty scary even when not directed at her, and it makes her hate me. I think she just wants a peaceful, happy life. With the business, she was worried about it failing as we are unable to work during this lockdown. She's the legal representative for the company, so it'd be her that'd face monetary, legal repercussions if we are unable to service our commitments. So, she was talking about giving up shares to make her position safer. However, I can't just walk away from the business we've put so many years of work into. So, I became enraged with the thought. So, yeah, I think she just wants things to be stable, safe, and without risk. I've never felt she has to walk on eggshells. I'm not flying into tantrums daily. There are just a few, very select, triggers that bring that out from me. It's not like it's just her, I'd be the same way regardless of who it was. I'm not singling her out for bullying. Having said that, I can also empathize with how terrible it must be to have someone stronger than you in a rage that could potentially hurt you. In no way am I dismissing her feelings. I'm not a citizen in this country and have other paperwork issues that prevent me from legally owning anything here. It's complex, but I haven't done anything to destroy my credit or whatnot. Maybe her feelings are really like you've described. I certainly hope that is not the case. I've never tried to contain her and I've always told her when we fight that if she truly doesn't wish to be with me, she can leave and I will do everything in my power to help her find her footing. These aren't hollow words. I truly want her to have a good and happy life, preferably with me, but if not, then wherever she can find it. If something affects my future in a significant way, then, yeah, I must fight for the outcome I believe in. What else can I do? Could I accept having a life I was not a party to crafting? Maybe for some that is acceptable, but I refuse that path. I am not a little dictator controlling every facet of her nor anyone's life, nor do I wish to live that way. Yet, when my world is going in a direction I cannot stomach, I must rage against it with every drop of vitality I have. How could I live with myself if I had not? About The Rock, I would have to fight with all I had, and if that was not enough, I would die fighting rather than accept the will of another man imposed upon me in regard to my wife. Honestly, if she conspired with another man to hurt me in any way, things would get very dark. I cannot imagine the rage I would feel. I bear a scar under my left eye from where once there was a tattoo, a memory of a time a man tried to rob me with a knife and my rage boiled up like never since. Still, that would not even compare with the agony and fire my heart would breathe if the one I love conspired against me. It's too painful to consider. So, I won't, and I'll move on to the next point. About the women thing, yeah, pretty much. Honestly, I've never been much into philandering. I'm more about chasing dreams. But, yeah, I go out with friends for drinks sometimes. However, I don't suppose many women are out on the prowl waiting to take my drunk self home once I'm too inebriated to resist. Really, it's apples and oranges. Yeah, we talk about our feelings after every fight. She says she hates when my eyes turn as it scares her. I say if she wants to be with me, she has to know there are certain things that I cannot accept. We both state our cases. She decides she is done with me. She leaves or doesn't talk to me for a few days, and then we start talking and return happily to life till such a point that we again bicker. I try not to apologize as I feel it'd be hypocritical. What a lie it would be for me to use force to get everything I want and then pretend to be upset about the results, though, to be honest, I do usually feel a strong sense of guilt for having hurt her in the process. Normally, I just use my body to try to express my emotion, such as trying to embrace her when she's angry or touching her face, etc. I've been fighting to defend my beliefs since I was a child. It's lonely but nothing new. Are my dreams so shallow? I don't believe so. Also, I believe my heart is very large and filled with love for this world and all people. Do you know what I want from life? I want to be a farmer and have a little plot of land where I can grow my crops and build things with my own hands. I dream my kids will be able to run around outside and not spend every day in these concrete boxes 100 feet in the sky. I dream my wife will be able to find some hobbies that make her happy and find a sense of purpose in doing these things. Will this approach give me those things? I don't know. I don't. Really, what can I do? Should I roll over to the wills of others? Should I accept my wife running around to bars and drinking with other men? Should I accept these people running my business into the ground with their lack of foresight? I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to alienate myself. But I refuse to be this world's fool. Hell, maybe I already am. It is what it is. What happens when I'm betrayed and all the faith I've put in her is shown to have been a mistake? I don't want to be hurt, and I especially don't want to be on my knees when it happens. Mother abandoned me as an infant. Sister was exed by mom's boyfriend. Mom went to prison. Half-brother had serious emotional problems and would attack me randomly. Had Coke bottle glasses. Speech impediment so strong they thought I was mentally retarded until 3rd grade. Moved often. No friends. My past is behind me and I do not have any negative feelings about it. My nature is my own and is current and evolving. Do not try to box me in with these things as fitting some model that explains away my existence and feelings. Do I consider myself misunderstood by society? Yes, I do, and I resent that. Does it have anything to do with my childhood? No, not at all, except that the pattern had emerged even then. I don't think she had any intention to do something with him behind my back. I just don't want the possibility of a relationship between them evolving. As for the business, we started with only 3,000 and grew out all under my leadership and decisions. That is what is so frustrating. The record shows I know how to make this work, but I am still treated otherwise. I fear I project weakness or something. I cannot understand why my previous success does not translate over into respect for my strategies. Anyway, I feel I've said too much of myself. Suddenly, I feel my life is very open and exposed. My thought wasn't for this. I will see what my wife does from here. So, I called her a few days ago and she said she was planning to come back. She still had some coldness about her, but I figured it was because the emotion was still fresh. However, today I called and her attitude was very cold. Now, I had been nothing but kind on the phone call. I asked how the trip was going and such. Then, I asked if she was missing me and she said no. I thought she was joking, but it turned out she wasn't. She refused to speak English the entire call, and everything she said was very standoff. She made comments like, "I'm not going to try to force you to like me. If you like me and want to be together and I feel the same, then everything will be fine. However, I don't want to force myself in a relationship that makes me unhappy." Well, I wasn't calling to fight, quite the opposite actually. What a terrible response. So, I ask if she is having an affair. Why is she suddenly acting this way? She says no, and then her attitude becomes even worse and she says I always misunderstand her. Now, I'm full of suspicion. I didn't sleep at all last night and have been feeling this pressure in my heart since we spoke. I'm thinking of running off on my own journey for a while. How can she suddenly be so cold to me? It completely reminds me of a relationship I had when I was a kid, and that girl began treating me this way. Eventually, I found she was having an online relationship with another boy. That girl was my first love and it broke my heart. It's really too cold of an attitude. I cannot believe this is simply over the little spat from last week. How can she say she doesn't miss me? I'm thinking I should go get my kids and leave her. My heart is so full of uncertainty and doubt now. How can she say she doesn't have any feelings of missing me? How is that possible? I can't believe this at all. I really suspect she's up to something. I think about her and the kids every day. That's a fact. No matter how much we have ever fought, I have never abandoned them from my heart. This is insane. So, now she calls me and says that she does miss me but was just trying to be mean when I called. Then, she tells me about her trip and is laughing, trying to get along, and says she thought about it and doesn't want me to feel bad. I'm very confused. She asked if I felt better, but I didn't know what I felt and still don't. I'm trying to ask my heart what I feel, but there is just confusion. I hope this fighting is over. I feel like a character in a movie that's been hoodwinked and has no idea what is happening around him. A friend of mine invited me out and I had a bit to drink. Right now, I can only think about how much I miss my wife and sons. I will never hit her again. Seeing what all I've written and reading all of the comments have definitely swayed me on this issue. I was wrong to put her into such a terrible situation. She has no friends, her family lives far away, and her husband, the one person she had to be there and protect her, was actually her biggest threat. There is a lot of guilt inside of me over this. Last night, while drunken, I sent a video to her. I don't remember what all I said and I deleted it from my phone while drunkenly trying to unsend it. However, it was basically me sobbing and apologizing. While those were and are my sentiments, I'm quite embarrassed with how I expressed them. It was pathetic. She was trying to call me a few times this morning, but I didn't answer because I don't know what to say about that thing. I feel like such a loser. I think I am starting to have an epiphany about myself. Here is a story from my youth. When I was 19, I was seeing a girl. She had told me she was a virgin and such, and I cared deeply for her. However, one day I was having lunch with a boy from out of town, and when I mentioned her name, he told me that she had performed job on him years back. When confronted with this thought, I became very suspicious and began to reach out to all of her friends to investigate. I finally found that she had been very promiscuous before knowing me. In anger, I left her and began sleeping with her best friend, who was also one of my good friends. At first, I just wanted to use her, but then I really fell in love with the girl. One night, the ex came drunkenly knocking on my bedroom window late into the night. We walked on the beach and talked a lot. She apologized and told me she was just scared that I wouldn't love her had she been honest about her past. We slept on the beach, and then the next morning we made love. Now, I was very confused. Things became complex as I had love in my heart for both of them and didn't want to let either down. Eventually, I decided to join the army to run away. It was a very emotional goodbye, and all three of us were crying and such. Also, their friendship was back together and all three of us were friends again. Also, I was sleeping with both of them. But I had already joined the army, so I had to go. While training in the army, there was a natural disaster back home, and I called to see how they were. Apparently, they were not so well. So, I ran away from the army and went back to them. We were all together for several days and nights, but I was worried that there would be legal issues with having run away from my commitment with the military. So, I told them to wait for me and I would go resolve the situation before returning. Now, when I returned, they didn't want to let me go. They were impressed by my escape, as it was apparently a pretty difficult thing to do and none had been able to for decades. Also, I was top in my group in pretty much everything from physical strength to intelligence tests, and also in the various obstacle courses and such. So, I became very angry and began swearing everyone out and such. Eventually, they sent me to a psychologist to see if I was fit to serve. Now, I had always believed that this was just an excuse to allow me to leave, such that I had to be proven to be somehow unfit to void the commitment, and they were just going through these motions as a formality. Here is the interesting bit. The psychologist diagnosed me as borderline personality disorder, and I was allowed to leave. At the time, I thought the diagnosis meant nothing and was just a random label they put on to let me get out. Well, I just opened the Wikipedia article on this and wow. Really, wow. The feeling is like visiting a mystic and then getting something right that seemed impossible to have known. So, I'm going to explore this some. However, I am also conflicted. I'm not sick, I'm a very strong and intelligent man. I really don't like the label at all. Also, I am me. I don't want to change who I am. But I also don't want my wife to suffer anymore. Anyway, so now off to do some reading and soul searching. So, not all rainbows and happy ever after. I found that my business partner from before has been going around trying to set up a deal to sell off our customers to a competitor. I told him to turn over the company chop to me immediately and he refused. I told him I was representing my wife while she was away, and, by law, the chop must be with whom she says. Long story short, I tell my wife about his behavior and she says we should relinquish the company and not fight. What the hell? Anyway, I ask her what the hell is wrong with her. Is she really so foolish a woman as to give up everything we have worked years to build? We started arguing and now, she says she is planning to give over the shares to him and be done with the business, done with this city, and done with me. She apparently is happy back home and I'm a giant A. Well, at least according to her. Needless to say, I feel a dagger has been pushed through my chest. There is a pressure I cannot put into words pushing out from within my heart. I feel I cannot breathe. At this point, I have no recourse but war. I will have to create a new company and fight for these customers. I've spoken with a lawyer and it seems it may be possible for me to have it in my name. Also, I have lined up other investors to fill in any financial holes. The man has mortgaged his house for his shares and, if I am to do what I feel I must, it will destroy him. However, my wife is the legal representative and she could also have severe consequences from a bankruptcy. I feel so betrayed by this. What is she thinking? She has chosen her horse, let her suffer with that choice. But I just want her to be a good woman and follow me. Still, I cannot accept this. I want to take everything from this man till he is destitute. I will destroy everything, and when I am standing like a phoenix on the ashes of all I have destroyed, I will look down and laugh at these idiots. How could he do this to me? How could she do this to me? Okay, then war it is. I control the customers and the staff. They will lose to me, not me to them. So, I have had some time to cool down. I spoke with my grandmother for some time about all of this and have had a bit of a shift in perspective. Honestly, I value my relationship with my wife more than this business. I can always start over and build my way back up. However, I definitely do not want to lose this woman that I love, and further mother to my children. So, I am thinking that I need to call her when she wakes up and apologize for having not realized how scared she was by the possible consequences of a war. She had a point. I was so caught in the mindset of conflict I was throwing her under the bus. I was being very solipsistic. If she is keen, we can leave this all behind and try to make our future, together, anew. So, this guy outmaneuvered me. Whatever, I know this industry and suspect he will lose everything soon enough regardless. At this point, I can only take this as a lesson learned. Do I feel betrayed by him? 100%. Do I feel betrayed by my wife? Yes, I do, but it is something I think I can get over and will not put myself into such a weak position next time. So, I had left a message last night and my wife woke up and called me back. I told her my current feelings on the matter and that I valued our relationship, her, and our children, much more than hurting this man. I explained that while I still am seething with anger at this guy, we can give up everything and leave this place if that is what she wants. I feel a bit weak about this, but maybe that is good for her. Maybe it empowers her some. Maybe that could be good. I don't know. In some way, I feel a blindfold has been removed from my eyes. Anyway, she cried some and was pretty happy. I guess it's possible it showed her that I value her. Personally, I would think the fact that I am stuck in this country is more than proof enough that I value her. But, okay, it seems she needed a refreshment gesture. So, hopefully this will be my last post. If everything goes smoothly from here, maybe I will post one last update after we have moved, gotten back onto our feet, and it will be something like good news, no updates. I mean, that's all I want. I just want a peaceful life. The name of my company is Peace. My name, in this language, means peacemaker. I'm rambling. Anyway, it seems a new future awaits me. About 2 years later, an update. My wife and I are still together. We had another son, third, last year. Maybe my testosterone has lowered with age, my strategies to deal with disappointment have changed, or my wife is less frustrating. Unlikely, but whatever the reason, we haven't had any real fights since I wrote in early 2020. As for our personal lives, the business collapsed during the lockdown measures and we've been bouncing around the country with my taking of various job offers that all end in conflict and resignation. Authority issues. I've just recently realized I'm very narcissistic and entitled. My wife found a hobby in strolling the beaches and hiking the mountains down south, so now that this most recent job didn't work out, we'll head back down that way. Is it a happy ending? I don't know. It feels as though things between us have improved, but the job problem and frequent moving visibly stress my wife, especially with the demands of raising the little one. I came to China when I was 21 to travel and ended up meeting my wife. She was 18 or so. In China, a woman must be 20 to marry, so we were in a bit of a predicament. As we hadn't married, I wasn't able to take her with me back to my country, and as I had come here just to visit, I was too soon be out of money. Also, she was now pregnant. Well, given the choice to remain illegally or return without her, I chose to stay. I rendered myself an illegal immigrant and remained here with her throughout the pregnancy and forevermore. I found work and made a salary under the table. However, the fear of being found out weighed heavily on my heart and I searched desperately for some resolution to our ordeal. Eventually, I gave up my citizenship and became stateless. My reasoning was such that the Chinese constitution allows stateless individuals to acquire citizenship when they have immediate relatives that are Chinese. Putting aside my marriage for a moment, there was no way they could deny my Chinese son was an immediate relation. Well, that was my reasoning at least. I was laughed out of the Entry-Exit Bureau. Having no nationality nor identification of my own, I worked under my wife's. Eventually, I started a company and did fairly well for myself. This was in her name. When the lockdown came, my friend whom I'd given some shares of the company to turned against me. He tried to use the situation to his benefit and wrest control. He convinced my wife that I was incompetent, the business was insolvent, and that it would fail unless she signed everything over to his name. I felt helpless and betrayed. This man began to tell our employees and customers that this was not my company, and that I was merely a figurehead. He showed our customers the company was registered in my wife's name and used that to discredit me. Despite my pleas, my wife refused to come out and restate that I had in fact founded, built up, and managed the business. At this, I knew I had to destroy the company rather than have it stolen away. So, I did. I pressured our customers and staff to sue. I tried to service the remaining obligations as best as possible to maintain my credibility while making it clear that this was being done by myself only and not the business. Once it became clear that all was beyond being salvaged, my one-time friend no longer wished to take control but rather tried in vain to separate himself from his shares. I had a bit of schadenfreude watching the ship sink. Well, years have gone by and the legal woes continue for my wife and the other shareholders. Just recently, she's even had her bank accounts frozen. In China, no one uses cash, so this is quite serious as it prevents her from using apps and such. In a strange turn of fate, she now lives through my ID, which I've regained. However, I often think about how she had betrayed me and shown a lack of trust in my leadership when I needed her faith. Most recently, I moved cities and she wanted to wait a few months. Now, she wishes to come up, but the thought of her fills me with contempt. On the phone, I play nice, but she senses my disdain. She said before, "You were like a steak. I like the meat, but not the fat. I'd focus on the part I didn't like and be angry with you for it. Now, you are like a fake steak made of beans. There is no fat, but the meat isn't real. I miss how it was before." Well, screw you. That's what I think. What makes me so frustrated? I never wanted to be that guy. My biggest fear has always been having a partner that cheats on me. Since I was a kid, I'd instantly end any relationship if the girl showed the slightest signs of interest in being around other guys. It was basically pathological. Now, I'm in a situation where I am that guy. Yeah, she didn't sleep with someone and there wasn't an emotional affair or anything like that, but she didn't trust me as the leader of our family. She didn't trust that I would pull us through the hard times. When things got tough, she tried to sell me out to save herself. The memory was reignited recently when I moved cities and she said she didn't want to come till I was settled. Her justification is that she has to think of the babies first. We were low on funds when I came and she didn't want to be in a situation where the children went without. It's not unreasonable. However, it's still another time she has shown me she doesn't trust my leadership of this troop. It's really hurtful as I always have put my family first. I remember when things were at their bleakest with the business. I put my hand out and said, "Jenny, take my hand. I promise I will pull us through this." And she refused. Maybe it sounds stupid written out on the internet, but it really hurt and the memory lingers with me to today. My comment: your anger is clearly stemming from a place of deep hurt. It's good that you're expressing what is really bothering you and why. The key is what you do with it. If you don't work through this and resolve it, especially if you continue to lament on it with no resolution, you will continue to be miserable and it will affect all of your relationships.